taking action for you.
Right now at 5, the fate of Florida and the future of America in your hands tonight. The voters were just 2 hours away from the polls closing. The choices this election day that could change the country. Good evening, everyone. I'm Jameis Newell.
And I'm Wendy Ryan. Thanks for joining us. We'll be with you all night long, tracking the national, state, and local elections as the results come in, live on the air and online.
Our live team coverage of reporters is standing by right now, monitoring the biggest races and where they stand.
But we begin with Melissa Mahadeo live in South Tampa, looking for problems at the polls. Melissa, with polls closing at 7 o'clock tonight, how are things going right now?
Well, Wendy, as we're hitting that 5 o'clock hour right now, you can tell that voters are starting to get off work because take a look, the parking lot, as you see, starting to fill up. We can see a steady stream of people walking inside, hoping to make their vote count. Still, overall today, we saw little to no line throughout Hillsborough County. At last check, Hillsborough was reporting a turnout just shy of 55%, so voters are still showing up as we speak. We spoke with one woman who said she planned to be an early voter like the 182,000 other county voters, but she just wasn't quick enough.
I was actually going to do mail away, but I didn't have time to mail it back. So brought it with me, turned it in, and then just voted in person instead.
And as you heard, you have that option too. You can also drop off your mail-in ballot at a supervisor of elections office. If you have already filled it out, there are 4 of those throughout the county, or you could bring it into your polling location, turn it in, and then go ahead and go and vote inside. You have until 7 p.m. tonight to get that mail-in ballot in or to physically come in and vote. For right now, I'm Melissa Mahadeo for ABC Action News.
Melissa, thank you. Meantime, the nation will be watching Florida tonight to see who will become our state's next governor. Republican Ron DeSantis and Democrat Andrew Gillum both casting their votes today. ABC Action News reporter Michael Paluska traveled to Tallahassee to watch the results come in with Gillum's campaign. So, Michael, how's the mood out there?
Well, Wendy, you know, it's raining now, and that has been a concern for Andrew Gillum all day today, worried about if this will keep people away from the polls. A sea of umbrellas behind me, and the stage is currently covered off. Early this morning when we caught up with Andrew Gillum, the mayor of Tallahassee, he was voting in a little bit of fog with his family. He was there with his son, and he was seeing a little bit of rain, but cast his vote this morning, and he was extremely excited, just like everyone else here. They are not going to let this rain dampen their spirits, and if this is anything like what we saw last night with a rally and a concert with a bunch of celebrities and them cheering on people to get out to vote today for Andrew Gillum, then that momentum might carry on, and Gillum expected to see a lot of millennials come out in support of him and hit the polls today. Still have a couple of more hours to get out and vote. Let's hear what Gillum told us this morning.
Us winning tonight, I think, will send a message to Mr. Trump and Mr. DeSantis as well, that the politics of hatred and of division, of separation, that they've come to an end. At least in this election, that's what we're going to show.
And Gillum told us tonight that he feels confident that a lot of those Republican early voters are actually going to hit the polls and actually already cast ballots for him. He doesn't think that they're going to vote for President Donald Trump. He thinks that a lot of those Republicans want change. We'll have to see if that happens. We'll be here all day today, rain or shine. We're live here in Tallahassee. Michael Paluska, ABC Action News. Carson, sorry, you're in Orlando. Carson, let me send it over to you. I think you're dry inside, right?
Hey, Michael. Yes, we are inside the Rosen Hotel Center in Orlando, right off International Drive. This is where Republican gubernatorial candidate Ron DeSantis will be huddling up with his supporters tonight. It could be a late night after a very contentious governor's campaign. Now, DeSantis did vote today over in Ponte Vedra Beach, that is in the Jacksonville area. He also tweeted out, "Let's finish strong," to voters. But DeSantis saying on the campaign trail in recent days that he sees historic energy on his side, noting Republican voters, their intensity this midterm. In the latest Quinnipiac poll, it is tight. Democratic candidate Andrew Gillum with a slight lead over DeSantis, a 7-point lead. But at this time, who knows who'll win? Back to you.
Carson, thank you. The race to represent Florida in the U.S. Senate could determine the balance of power in Congress. Governor Rick Scott is challenging the incumbent, Bill Nelson. ABC Action News reporter Ryan Smith continues our team coverage from Governor Scott's election night watch party in Naples. Ryan?
No surprise here, guys. Florida plays a big role in this very tight race. Governor Rick Scott hopes to shift his administrative duties from our capital in Tallahassee to the nation's capital. ABC Action News catching up with Governor Rick Scott earlier this afternoon right in Tampa as he spent some time meeting campaign volunteers and his supporters. Now this marks, get this, the most expensive Senate race in Florida history. The governor, a wealthy former healthcare executive, putting up more than $60 million from his own pocket to help win a seat in the U.S. Senate. And records show us he spent about $12 million of that in just the final 2 weeks. Scott has campaigned heavily on job growth and taking his economic successes from Florida to Washington. In addition to being a very, very expensive tight race, this also marks a historic race. A win tonight for the governor puts 2 Florida Republicans in the U.S. Senate, something that has not been done in more than 100 years. And for incumbent on the incumbents camp, Senator Bill Nelson, we go live to Julie Salomon in Orlando.
Ryan, well, Senator Bill Nelson has hung on to this U.S. Senate seat since 2000. That's when he was first elected, so that's 18 years. He's hoping to hang on to it again today. A low-key election day for Senator Bill Nelson, though. He just attended private events, but in the past days, he has campaigned throughout Central Florida, including areas like Orlando, Kissimmee, and Melbourne. He also waved to drivers and held up signs. He attended a rally with actress Eva Longoria, who is involved with Get Out the Vote efforts in the Latino community. Nelson says he's for lower taxes, better education, Medicare, and Social Security. Now he is hosting a watch party here at the Embassy Suites. The doors open at 7 o'clock. It's supposed to be a very tight race as he goes up against Governor Rick Scott. Reporting live in downtown Orlando, Julie Salmon, ABC Action News.
Julie, thank you. And ABC Action News is your election night resource. As soon as the polls close at 7, we'll go live on air to track the results as they come in. Our coverage on all of our streaming platforms starts at 8. We'll bring you insight from our expert analysts and victory speeches as they happen. And make sure you've downloaded our free mobile app, and we will send you push alerts once the major races get called.
How you doing, everybody? I'll tell you, we are so warm, we are so muggy, and over the next couple of days, there could be a couple of showers pop up along the sea breeze. And even look here, I was looking just over the last couple of minutes, a couple of sprinkles may even be trying to pop up in the Gulf of Mexico. That's something we'll have to watch very closely over the next hour or two, but otherwise, it's all about the heat. It's all about the humidity. Temperatures right now in the mid to upper 80s, dew points in the upper 60s to near 70 degrees. I look at Futurecast. It looks pretty quiet right on through the evening hours. A little bit of cloud cover rolling in from the Gulf, but I don't think it should be an issue as the polls close at 7 o'clock. The weather looks good between 6 and 7, staying in the lower 80s under partly cloudy, warm, and muggy conditions. Guys?
All right, thanks, Dennis. We'll check back with you. Well, new tonight, Pinellas County just confirming this picture shows red tide very close to the shore in Gulfport. ABC Action News reporter Nicole Grigg explains why some people were worried it could be something more.
The county tells me that they sent a crew out today to do water testing, and I want you to take a look at it. You can see how brown that water is today. We walked up and down the shoreline finding dead fish.
It's not very inviting.
Richard Fox is down here from Canada. His boat isn't moving from Boca Ciega Bay.
The water's browner than usual. You can see when you've got your propeller going, you look at the wake and it just churns it all up.
Late today, Pinellas County confirming it is in fact red tide here, and it's a very high concentration. They say there are no reports of any sewage spills here, but the effects of red tide are minimal so far.
But it doesn't have an odor. I don't think it has an odor.
Some telling us they thought it was something more because of how dark the water is.
I really don't think so, compared to what I've seen, you know, on the other beaches and everything else.
The county says they still have crews cleaning up dead fish, and they say the bloom in South County right now is quite intense in some places.
But, you know, I wouldn't go for a swim.
If you want to take a look at the latest red tide conditions at a beach along here in Pinellas County, we have a link on our website, abcactionnews.com. Reporting in Gulfport, Nicole Grigg for ABC Action News.
Clearwater police say the driver in an early morning hit-and-run crash was distracted by his phone. Arrest documents show 22-year-old Chase Childers stopped at first and called 911 and then left the area near Drew Street and Fort Harrison Avenue. That's where police say he hit a 59-year-old woman crossing the street. The victim is still in the hospital in critical condition. Childers apparently told police he was trying to pick out music on his phone. Sarasota County deputies say some Glen Allen Elementary students are getting counseling after witnessing a school bus stop fight this morning. We're told two women started attacking each other at Arrow Avenue and Eager Street. At one point, a broken coffee mug was used as a weapon. Both women ended up in the hospital. There could be charges once the investigation is over. Deputies are looking for more witnesses.
A Pasco County man has waited 3 years to place a home on this lot. Coming up, we're asking, where exactly did that home go?
And stay with us for continuing coverage of Election Day here in Florida, the races that could tip the scales of power in Washington, D.C.
Welcome back. Taking a live look at this South Tampa polling place. We're about 2 hours away from the polls closing and election results pouring into our newsroom. We'll be with you all night to bring you those outcomes live. And one of the biggest ripple effects that could come from Florida is the balance of power in Congress.
That's right. ABC Action News reporter Lauren St. Germain joins us now live to show you what's at stake here. Lauren?
All right, so Wendy and Jameson, the numbers to focus on right now are 23 and 2. Right now, this is the Senate breakdown. Republicans do have control, 51-47, with 2 independent, but close to 1/3 of all senators are up for re-election. Democrats need a net gain of 2 seats in the chamber to take over. So now let's move to the House. All 435 seats are up for grabs. And right now, again, you can see the Republicans do have control. Democrats need to pick up 23 seats to win the majority. A lot of races we're going to be watching very closely tonight in the House, California, and a lot of northern states. In the Senate, obviously Florida, but then Nevada, Arizona, and Texas, to name a few. We'll be watching them very closely all throughout the night. Wendy, back to you.
All right, Lauren, thank you. Meantime, President Donald Trump has spent the run-up to Election Day crisscrossing the country for rallies supporting Republican candidates. The White House says he spent today making last-minute phone calls, and he will watch the election results come in with his family and friends tonight.
Well, if you're fed up with all of those robocalls, help is on the way. The Federal Communications Commission just told phone companies, come up with a fix or we will. Its leaders sent a letter to the major phone companies demanding the solution be industry-wide. This solution has to address the problem of spoofing, where robocallers change the number that shows up when they call. Companies have until next year or the FCC will, quote, take action.
A Pasco County man paid nearly $10,000 for a mobile home, but then 3 years later, he had nothing to show for it.
That's when he called Jackie Calloway to take action, tracking down his home and his money.
For 3 years,
so I can get a home here eventually.
Steve Stark imagined living on this bird-filled and shaded lot in Holiday.
I would think right in this square area, right in here.
He made improvements.
That's the septic tank. See, I put water lines in.
And wrote Richard Clark of GRC Mobile Installations these 2 checks, totaling $9,800. You can see they're dated November 15th of 2015.
And he met us back over here and took the 2 checks from me here with John. And said he would have it set up and delivered in 3 weeks.
But 3 years later, Steve is still waiting on his home.
Just one excuse after another. I'm out of town. Something went wrong with his house. It's the county. He kept saying the county wouldn't issue him permits.
It's Jackie Calloway at ABC Action News. The owner told us he'd run into a delay with Pasco County's permitting office, but I checked and found he never pulled a permit until after our first call in October. If you look at the checks, and I know you're aware this has been 3 years. After our calls, Steve says he got a text message from Mr. Clark.
Yeah, he sent me that saying he'd give me 2 checks within 7 business days.
And days later, Steve received a full refund, all $9,800.
You've done all this in a week. It's amazing, because I haven't been able to get anywhere with him.
Steve says it's the first and last time he'll pay for anything in full and up front until the goods are delivered. I'm consumer investigator Jackie Calloway, taking action for you.
Well, if you had to stand outside in line today to go to the polls,
yeah,
you're probably going to vote by mail in 2020.
Yeah, because it was hot and
Man,
sticky and
it?
muggy.
The humidity, I think, was the biggest thing. I mean,
Yeah.
you can handle low to mid-80s if it's dry, but today was unusually warm, up near record-breaking heat. Still beautiful out there with sunny skies, especially in Tallahassee. There's rain going on up north. There's cold. There's ice. So hard to complain with a day like today, even though you know, we were looking at Titan Doppler radar, and there's a little bit of moisture just offshore. Don't think it's going to amount to anything, but I do think over the next couple of days with our heat and our humidity, there's bound to be a couple of isolated showers pop up, especially east of I-75. Otherwise, it's all about the temperatures. It has been the last few days. It will be for the next 3 or 4 days. Huge changes next week. We'll get to that in just a minute. Temperatures right now out Valrico at 86 degrees, Ruskin 82, 77 in Hudson, 79 in Clearwater. So things are beginning to change. The water, mid-70s. So that means all of our coastal areas are a good 6 to 8 degrees cooler than inland areas. So tomorrow, I think we're in the same ballpark east of I-75. You'll be closer to 90. However, if you live anywhere closer to the beach, you'll be closer to 80. 82 right now in Tampa, Clearwater 82. A lot of sunshine across the area. Winds coming in off the Gulf at 5 to 10 miles an hour. And along with that moisture, there's a little bit of cloud cover at times, but still a beautiful day out there. And I think we're going to see more of the same right on through the next 24 to 48 hours. Tonight, if you're still waiting to get on out to the polls, they close at 7. Obviously, the weather looks good, warm and muggy. But I do think by tomorrow we go even a little bit warmer, especially east of I-75. We wake up to a lot of sunshine, and then watch what happens. 3, 4 o'clock, I think there is enough moisture for an isolated shower, again, interior counties. So if you live in eastern Hillsborough, Polk County, Hardy, DeSoto Highlands, maybe even eastern Manatee County as well. Otherwise, the rest of us just an unusually warm and muggy day. Wednesday, Thursday, Friday, same setup each day, meaning a lot of sunshine in the morning, maybe an isolated shower later in the afternoon, but there won't be many. Our stretch of unusually warm weather and near record-breaking weather will continue until early next week. That means forecast highs anywhere from a water temperature in the middle 70s in the Bay, 76 there, 77 in Clearwater, and afternoon highs upper 80s from downtown over to Lutz, back on east of I-75 from Dade City, Brooksville, and right on through Polk, Hardy, DeSoto, and Highlands, close to 90 degrees in a few spots, low to mid 80s closer to the beach. And then, as long as things go the way I think they will, we've got a pretty strong front coming in next week. This is what it's going to do to the temperatures. These are the high temperatures. Now, this is actually the European model. I'll tell you, typically has a little bit of a cold bias. Sometimes it's maybe a little bit too chilly, but it goes from temperatures in the 80s, those are your highs, to a high on the 14th in the low to mid 60s highs, and morning lows 30s and 40s. I wouldn't be surprised if that number goes up a little bit more over the next few days, but regardless, next Tuesday, Wednesday, and Thursday, we are in for quite a cool down. So enjoy the warm temperatures if you're into the warm air, and if you're not, take heart. There's some changes on the way. So here's a look at your forecast, your out-the-door forecast for Wednesday. It looks good, another warm one. We go 77 in the morning, 85, 86 in that ballpark in the afternoon hours under mostly sunny skies. Florida's most accurate 7-day forecast. Rain chances, maybe a couple of sprinkles. We're going to go a 10, maybe a 20% chance of a shower, and almost all of it tomorrow and Thursday and Friday will be east of I-75. We got our first front coming in this weekend. Now that's going to bump up our rain chances just a little bit, but I don't think that gives us our cooler air. So look for partly sunny skies this weekend, maybe a few showers. Temperatures back closer to where they should be in the low 80s, and then our next shot of cold air, the second one, comes in later Tuesday and into Wednesday of next week. Guys?
All right, thank you, Dennis. Still ahead, if you live in Hillsborough County, you've probably gotten the mailers. We're taking you inside one contentious fight that could shift the balance of power in the state Senate.
Which restrooms should transgender students be able to use? The Sarasota County School Board is answering that question right now. We'll take you inside the debate.
About 90 minutes to go until polls close, and one of the heated races we'll be watching all night long is the fight for Florida's Senate 18th District.
ABC Action News reporter Maricela Burgos is at the watch party for one of the campaigns. She takes us inside the race that pits Dana Young versus Janet Cruz.
We're here at Senator Dana Young's watch party. It starts in about 30 minutes. We're still waiting to hear from her tonight. The biggest question is whether the Democratic challenger will unseat the Republican incumbent. Young has been in the Senate for the past 2 years. She's promising things like keeping taxes low, continuing to support craft breweries, and she wants to end spoofing from telemarketers. As you know, her competitor Janet Cruz is a member of the Florida House of Representatives. Cruz says she supports making sure public schools get plenty of resources. She supports affordable health care and protecting the economy. Cruz is also hoping for a victory tonight. Both of the candidates have thanked their supporters on Twitter. Maricela Burgos, ABC Action News.
Now Paul Agrone shows us what he's working on for 5:30. Paul?
Thanks, guys. And coming up here, we are following the final countdown next at 5:30. Voters still heading out to the polls to cast their ballots in the Tampa Bay area. We're digging in to the money race tonight to earn that vote. Plus,
2 new taxes in Hillsborough County. I'm Eric Waxler with the decision voters have to pay more for schools and transportation.
and setting the example, 2 women on very different sides of the aisle, striking up a unique friendship. Their message for everyone as the election results roll in tonight.
Closed captioning is brought to you by Lakeland Toyota. Save more on I-4.
Tonight, the 0 hour, fast approaching Judgment Day in America. As the votes are being counted, we're live at the polls. And beyond the candidates tonight, the major money issues at stake, the tax increase versus the public investment and what the outcome really means for you. And on a night when the hype is in overdrive, some friendly perspective here. The happy campaigners on very opposite sides of the political spectrum inside their unique friendship tonight and the message they have for all of us when the dust finally settles. We are all in it together, no matter what. 90 minutes until the polls close in Florida as we take a live look tonight from Ballast Point Boulevard. Voters still showing up, and as the final votes do come in, I-Team investigator Adam Walser tracking the money spent to secure your vote. Adam.
That's right, Paul. In addition to the big number of voters going to the polls this year, there's also big money being spent in this midterm election. We've been looking through the latest campaign finance reports, and we've discovered plenty of people contributed millions of dollars to try to influence your vote.
Thank you. Appreciate it.
In the big money race for governor, campaign finance reports show Andrew Gillum's campaign and Ron DeSantis' campaign in a virtual tie. Each raised more than $18 million through November 1st, but records show Gillum outspent DeSantis by nearly $2.5 million. Campaign records show Gillum spent nearly twice as much on advertising as DeSantis and also had nearly 3 times as many donors.
I remain the only candidate running to be Florida's top prosecutor.
In the Attorney General campaign, which has 2 Tampa candidates, Republican Ashley Moody raised more than $5.2 million, while Democratic opponent Sean Shaw raised $2.7 million. Campaign spending records show that through November 1st, Moody outspent Shaw by nearly a 10-to-1 margin.
They want someone that they trust.
Records also show outside groups contributed more than $86 million to try to influence Florida's U.S. Senate race. Almost all went to pay for negative ads. There was more than $50 million in outside spending attributed to Bill Nelson's campaign, including $31 million spent opposing him. Almost all of that money was spent by the new Republican PAC, a super PAC formed to elect Scott. There was more than $36 million in outside spending in the Scott campaign. The biggest spender was the Senate Majority PAC, which spent more than $15 million opposing Scott. Now, in those races we looked at, about half that money spent since October 1st, which explains all those TV ads, social media messages, and flyers you've received in the mail in the last few weeks. I'm I-Team investigator Adam Walser taking action for you.
Adam, thank you. And new numbers just coming in here tonight showing turnout is now on track to be higher than it has been in any midterm election in the United States since 1914. That data coming to us from the University of Florida tonight. 38 million Americans voting early this time. They project that that will make up 1/3 of the vote when it's all said and done. So turnout would be 114 million people in total. We told you yesterday early voting was in fact up in every single Bay Area county from the 2014 midterm elections. And 2 of the biggest races in the country tonight, the Florida Senate and the Florida governor races. Gubernatorial candidates Ron DeSantis and Andrew Gillum both casting their votes this morning. Rick Scott starting his morning in Tampa. Bill Nelson, meanwhile, in Orlando tonight. The latest polls show both of those races will go down to the wire. We're going to be taking a deeper dive later into one significant poll and other potential surprises that we could see. That's coming up all new at 5:45. But for now, we're moving on beyond the candidates tonight and focusing on the issues that you did see on your ballot, including 2 tax referendums in Hillsborough County that would give that county the highest tax rate in the entire state. Eric Waxler joining us live in downtown Tampa tonight to break it down. Eric.
Yeah, if both referendums pass, it would put Hillsborough County at the highest when it comes to sales tax at 8.5%. But those at the Hillsborough County School District and here at the All for Transportation headquarters say that money is desperately needed. Yes for Transportation wants to raise $151 million annually with a 1-cent sales tax hike. They say the money will mean less traffic and safer roads. Opponents say too much of the money will go to the expansion of the public transit system, the buses that only a fraction of people use.
It's downtown special interests that have funded this. It is not a grassroots initiative.
The majority of this funding is going to go to fix roads. So that's going to be reducing congestion, adding turn lanes, fixing potholes.
As for the school tax, it's a half-cent tax that the district says will go to repairing schools, including air conditioning units that are in disrepair and not working in some cases around the county, also roofs and added safety additions. So we have two different tax referendums. Will both pass? Will just one of them pass or neither? We'll find out in the next couple hours. Live in Tampa, Eric Waxler, ABC Action News.
Eric, thank you, and we are with you all night long, bringing you live team coverage as election results do come in. Tonight you can watch ABC Action News on air starting at 7 o'clock right after World News, and then at 8 o'clock we will be live on your favorite streaming device. Turning now to the forecast, the skies posing no Election Day obstacles, Dennis.
Yeah, it looks great out there. Very warm, unusually warm, with temperatures topping out today in the mid to upper 80s. Titan Doppler radar, we are rain-free. A lot of moisture out there, though, and I do think over the next couple of days that translates into maybe a few isolated showers. Should not be a problem for this evening. Temperatures right now 86 in Plant City and in Bartow. 70s, though, along the coast. Those cooler Gulf waters, the Gulf now 75, and that wind coming in off the Gulf making it quite a bit cooler along the coast. But boy, it's every bit as humid. Those dew points upper 60s to low 70s. That's more like July and August than early November. So we topped out today at 84 in Tampa, 86 in Lakeland, 88 in Winter Haven, where it was a record-breaking afternoon high. Futurecast this evening, skies look mostly clear. It'll be a warm and muggy start to your Wednesday. So if you're heading out this evening, still the polls open till 7, or just going on to maybe relax a little bit after your day, the weather will be nice. You're not going to need a jacket today, but oh boy, you will next week. And we'll talk about that long-range forecast coming up in a couple of minutes, rather. Oh.
Dennis, see you then. Right now, breaking news out of Sarasota County. We are just learning that one of the 4 victims hit by a car last week in Venice has died. Florida Highway Patrol says the bicyclists were in that designated lane on Center Road when they made an improper lane change, crossed into the car's path. The 3 other victims are doing okay tonight, 2, though, still in the hospital. 1 has since been released. The 91-year-old woman who hit them will not be facing any charges. Following up tonight on what the latest warning is about hepatitis A in Pinellas County, and here's what we know. Tonight, the county says they are seeing a higher demand for Hep A vaccines. The health department putting out that alert yesterday that an employee at the Toasted Monkey restaurant in St. Petersburg tested positive for Hep A, the second Tampa Bay restaurant, in fact, to be connected to the current outbreak. Also tonight, the Florida man accused of sending those pipe bombs to prominent Democrats across the country, now being held without bail inside a New York City jail. Cesar Sayoc making his first court appearance today in federal court in Manhattan. He was just moved from Miami to New York this week. Prosecutors telling a judge that Sayoc presents a flight risk and is in fact a serious danger to the public. New video out tonight of these burglary suspects still on the run right now. Hillsborough County deputies searching for these 4 guys who just raided unlocked cars in the Riverbend subdivision in Ruskin. Well, you know, sometimes politics is personal, and this election season has divided most of the country. But tonight we have a story of a unique friendship born out of intense competition. JJ Burton tonight with their message to all of us.
In a divided country, I found hope on Fletcher Ave. Meet Beverly Hills and Roberta Borriello.
DeSantis! Beatrice! Gilead!
2 strangers, both strong women with 2 different political views.
I'm voting for DeSantis because I believe that he has Florida at heart.
Well, I'm voting for Gillum because I see that he has a good nature of helping and supporting our country.
They're standing together, along with a few others, not only to support their candidate, but also to show other voters that we can all still get along.
United we stand. It's not about red, yellow, black, and white. We all are precious in his sight.
And Beverly and Roberta say even if their candidate doesn't win, they're still happy because this election brought them a new friend.
I love you too.
In Tampa,
God bless you.
JJ Burton, ABC Action News.
Something for all of us to keep in mind. Our Election Day coverage continues with the bigger picture tonight. Governorships up for grabs across the country. The balance of power and the striking new poll out just coming down on Florida's major races. Our political expert weighs in just ahead. Plus, happening right now on the bathroom policy debate for transgender students in Sarasota County. We're going to be taking you inside that crucial decision tonight. And here's Good Morning Tampa Bay meteorologist Greg D with an early look at your wake-up forecast.
Good evening, everybody. After a very warm election day, we're going to cool off nicely overnight. Still a bit mild, waking up early Wednesday morning in those low 70s, a mix of clear skies and a couple of scattered clouds. Turning sunny early Wednesday, temperatures already in the mid 70s by 8 o'clock, and it's likely that we'll be back into the mid, maybe some upper 80s for Wednesday afternoon. A couple of fronts that I'm watching, one for the weekend, another one for next week. The timing on those and the big temperature drop behind them starts at 4:30. Good morning, Tampa Bay.
Breaking news just into the newsroom. Hamburger Mary's in Ybor City will in fact close their doors following business today. This comes weeks after a worker there tested positive for hepatitis A. They wrote on their Facebook that tonight is in fact their last night open. The store claiming that the hepatitis A scare is what caused it to close down. But an ABC Action News I-Team investigation recently found that the emergency closure was actually because of roaches and rodents in the kitchen there. There were in fact 45 violations documented in the past 2 days. Hamburger Mary's says that they are only closing down their Ybor City location. All right, back to our election coverage tonight and taking another live look here as every last vote is cast in Florida. The polls closing in just over an hour from now. Here's a live look from a South Tampa polling place on Ballast Point Boulevard. We're going to be speaking with more voters coming up in the next half hour. But first, let's bring in our political analyst for tonight, our special election coverage, Dr. Susan McManus. And I want to get your reaction to some breaking news that we're just getting in here. The first exit polls released. This is the national exit polls, I should mention, not for Florida, but it shows approval, disapproval for President Trump breaking down at 55% to 44%. And then they also mentioned the right track, wrong track poll. Again, exit polls on the national scale. Wrong track at 56%, right track at 41%. What's your reaction to that? Does that provide any sort of tea leaves onto how tonight might go?
Not particularly for Florida. These are national polls. They're very interesting, but they do point out several things. One is that we all think that this election is a referendum on the president. And of course, Trump's approval ratings have been a little bit higher here in Florida than some other states. And secondly, they also, the right direction, wrong direction for years has been a good way of looking at whether people are going to vote to change things or to keep things as is.
And also mentioned that the House of Representatives, that you had first-time voters, 16%, and that when they decided they were going to vote early, they said 65% decided they were going to vote early, had already made up their mind. I want to go to another poll out today, the Trafalgar poll. They purported to be the only poll in America that got it right in 2016, predicting that Trump would win Wisconsin, which catapulted him to the White House. So tonight, the Trafalgar poll just coming out saying that Rick Scott is going to eke out a victory in the Senate race and that Ron DeSantis is going to pull out a victory in the gubernatorial race. What do you say to that?
That poll was also correct in Florida in calling Trump. One of the reasons that poll is looked at a little bit differently is it polls up to Election Day. A lot of these polls stop before then, and they try to sort of cover themselves because they can claim afterwards that they were within margin of error. So we'll be really watching carefully. We do know that tonight a lot of the results are going to depend upon how big a margin that Republicans came up with on Election Day. They have a history of voting in a lot larger numbers on Election Day. Democrats on early voting and Republicans on vote by mail. But it's going to be a nail biter in Florida.
All right, and I can't wait to start talking about results and not polls anymore. We will be soon doing that. Dr. McManus, thank you. And moving on now to our other big developments tonight. 2 members of Congress now calling for a full investigation at Zoo Tampa into a Zoo Tampa veterinarian and how he cared for manatees. U.S. Representative Charlie Crist and Kathy Castor both say they are deeply troubled by the allegations that Dr. Ray Ball improperly cared for manatees, resulting in at least 2 manatee deaths. Ball is the head of Zoo Tampa's manatee rehabilitation program and is now on paid leave tonight. A debate over bathrooms now playing out right now in Sarasota School District. Leaders there determining the fate of a new policy on how to handle LGBTQ students. ABC Action News reporter Jake Peterson is at that meeting.
It is a packed house here at the school board chambers. School board members are deciding if they should revise these guidelines the superintendent sent out last month regarding the handling of LGBT students. The guidelines allow the student to choose which restroom they want to use, and state teachers should address transgender students by the name and gender requested. For elementary age students, oftentimes parents are involved in this discussion, but it depends on if the student wants them to be involved. The school board chair wants these guidelines revised to include parents in the conversation.
These are impressionable minds, young, developing minds, and we need to ensure that parents are at the table when we have discussions about something as serious as this.
School leaders say these guidelines are similar to what is being used across the country at other schools. The meeting is expected to last at least another hour, and we will keep you posted. Reporting in Sarasota, Jake Peterson, ABC Action News.
All right, one nonprofit group now on a mission to bring pizza to the polls. While waiting in lines, you could submit your polling location to the website, Pizza to the Polls, along with some evidence that your wait time is on the long side, but you are kind of running out of time here, about an hour and 13 minutes till they close. They'll choose the longest waits. They will show up, apparently with free pizza for everyone. If that doesn't bring people together on both sides, I don't know what will.
I haven't heard. Are we hearing that the lines are exceptionally long today?
We've had a 45-minute wait time, I believe, in Riverview, but that seemed to be the exception, not the rule statewide. It looks like things are going smoothly. Of course, South Florida always tends to throw a kink in things, but we'll see how it plays out.
And the weather certainly helped out too.
Yeah.
No issues there. Beautiful shot there of what is almost a sunset. Yep, that sun setting an hour earlier. And with a little bit of cloud cover out there, it's still beautiful, but boy, the heat and humidity, unbelievable. Record highs off to our east, Titan Doppler radar, quiet out there. You know, maybe a little shower offshore. I don't think it makes it onshore. Tomorrow, we might see just a sprinkle or a quick shower east of I-75 as we have all that heat and all that humidity for at least another 3 or 4 days before we have big changes. At least that's the way it looks for next week. Right now, mid to upper 80s. That was the high earlier on, but now we're down into the 70s along the coast. Tampa right now checking in partly cloudy and 82 degrees. The dew point 66. Southwest winds. That wind's coming in off the Gulf, and now that the Gulf is cooling things off, that means our coastal communities are going to be quite a bit cooler than our inland spots. So we hit 84 today. Normal is 80. The record 90 in Tampa, so nowhere near the record. But boy, look at that morning low. We were 10 degrees above normal this morning, only dropped down to 72, and 62 is about right for this time of the year. Clear right now in St. Pete, 81 degrees, and clear in Sarasota, and 79 degrees. Satellite picture, it's quiet. We had all the heat, we had the humidity, we had a few clouds, but still, compared to what's going on up north with some ice and some snow and some spots, obviously, I think a lot of us live in this area for this reason, enjoying all the beautiful warm temperatures. But Jed, I hear you. I know there's a lot of folks saying, come on, it's almost the holidays, Dennis. Bring us a little bit of cool air. We got you covered by next week. More on that in a second. So here's a look at Futurecast this evening. Partly to mostly cloudy skies after midnight, but otherwise waking up to mostly sunny skies. Temperatures right back in the low to mid 70s again. So the kids will not need the jacket, nor will you. You're not going to need the sweater, nothing like that. That'll be reserved for next Tuesday, Wednesday, and Thursday. With the heat of the day, maybe an isolated shower east of I-75. There won't be much. And I think we see the same setup on Thursday. Now, by later on this week into the weekend, we're going to have the first of 2 fronts. The first one is going to bring us a chance of a couple of showers. It's the second one that will change these temperatures, but that won't arrive until early next week. So waking up, upper 60s to middle 70s, afternoon highs up near record highs, especially east of I-75. And then Thursday morning, every bit as warm, right around the 70-degree mark. So I don't see a lot of change there with afternoon highs back in the 80s. But there it is. That cold air is now just beginning to filter in from the north. And I think by early next week, we're going to be on the fringe of it. But we may very well see our season's first snuggle alert by the middle of next week. Here's your voting forecast. Polls close at 7. The weather looks good. Temperatures in the lower 80s. And a look at Florida's most accurate 7-day forecast. Rain chances 10% on Wednesday, maybe 10 to 20% pretty much right through Friday. Then that first front comes in this weekend, and that brings us rain chances a little higher at times, maybe 20-30%. Still not a bad weekend, a little cooler, back down to where we should be at 81. But then next week is when the big changes arrive. Tuesday, a high of 72. Wednesday might only see highs in the low to mid 60s. Paul?
Dennis, thank you. Still ahead here tonight, the month-long road closure impacting thousands of drivers in the morning and at night. So we're mapping out the best way for you to get around all of it next. All right, you definitely want to know about this one. Major road closures coming to the busy West Chase area. Traffic anchor Sarah Finney tonight driving Tampa Bay forward, mapping out the reroutes.
I'm following a closure in West Chase that could impact your morning and evening commute for a month. Watch for lane closures and traffic shifts on Linebaugh Avenue at Sheldon Road because of pipeline construction. The 2 right turn lanes westbound on Linebaugh to northbound Sheldon will be shutting down Wednesday, so traffic will be shifted. There will be 2 through lanes, 1 dedicated right lane and 1 dedicated left turn lane. If you bike or walk, be extra careful in this area. Some crosswalks, sidewalks, and bike lanes will be affected as well. The closures are expected to be in place until mid-December. It's part of a county utilities project. For the latest traffic updates, follow Tampa Bay Traffic on Twitter or download our free mobile app.
Straight ahead here at 6, these 4 men have spent months and millions of dollars pushing to get your vote. We are live tonight as they wait for the results to come in. You decide Florida's future when we come back.